Have you ever told people about a big dream of yours and felt a sense of relief as if you had already achieved it? Did you notice what happened afterward? Sometimes, when we talk too much about wanting to build something, it becomes even harder to build it. Once in a small coastal town, there lived a young woman in her 20s named Elara. Elara had big dreams and strong ideals. Every week, she chose a new goal. One week, she would say she was going to open the best bakery in town. The next week, she would decide to become a fitness coach. Then she would announce that she was going to write a book. But Elara had what she believed was a good habit of her own. Before starting anything, she would tell everyone about it. Not quietly, but openly. She would walk into a cafe full of people and say, "I'm about to change my life. I'm going to open the best bakery this town has ever seen." People would clap. They would smile. "That's a great idea. You can do it," they would say. Elara would feel proud and important. That night, she would sleep peacefully, as if it had already happened. But the next morning, when it was time to wake up early and begin the real work, she would feel tired, and that excitement would already be gone. Days would pass. The bakery would never open. Then she would find herself a new dream. This time, she would stand in front of the gym and say, "I'm preparing a training program. People will see what real transformation looks like." Again, she would be praised. Again, she would feel strong. And once more, a few days later, that energy would disappear. She would stop trying, and her plans would remain unfinished. This cycle continued for years. A new dream, a loud announcement, warm words of support, then silence, and no real step taken. Elara's hands remained empty. Her life did not change. Little by little, she began to feel ashamed, unable to understand herself. She truly wanted to succeed. She truly wanted to grow. But each time, she stopped before reaching the hardest part. One evening, she sat alone on the pier. The air was cool, the water calm, yet inside, she felt heavy. An older man named Matteo approached her. He was known in town as a calm and dignified person. He spoke little, but people trusted him. He sat beside Elara and gently asked, "Why do you look so troubled?" Elara sighed. "I have so many dreams," she said, "but I can't finish any of them. I don't know what my problem is." Matteo slowly nodded. "When you have a new idea, what is the first thing you do?" he asked. Without thinking, Elara answered, "I tell people. I want them to know. I want them to be proud of me." Matteo gave a slight smile. "Come to me tomorrow morning," he said. "I want to show you something." The next day, Elara went to Matteo's small garden. Matteo had 2 seeds in his hand, and he gave one to Elara. "Plant this," he said. Elara dug a small hole and placed the seed into the soil. She carefully covered it. Then Matteo lifted the second seed into the air and called to a few nearby children. "Look," he said, "I have a seed. Soon it will become a beautiful tree. Watch." The children clapped and laughed. Matteo placed the seed on a flat stone under the sun and simply left it there. Days passed. Every morning, Matteo watered the seed buried in the soil. Without telling anyone, he simply watered it. Elara visited often. Slowly, a small green sprout pushed through the soil. Day by day it grew. Matteo maintained the same silence. The seed on the stone did not change. It dried in the sun, cracked, birds pecked at it, and eventually it disappeared. A few weeks later, Elara returned to that garden. Matteo spoke calmly. "Elara, a seed needs silence to grow. It needs darkness. It needs protection beneath the soil. If you leave it exposed and talk too early, it will dry up and never become a tree. After those words, something shifted inside Elara. Mateo continued, "When you share your dreams too early, you feel pride too early. You receive praise before working. Your mind tastes the reward, and your heart loses the desire to continue." Elara simply lowered her head. It was true. Whenever she announced a plan, she felt successful. Being applauded and supported was enough for her. In that moment, she felt as if she had already achieved it. And once she had that feeling, working started to seem unnecessary. Mateo placed his hand on her shoulder. "Dreams are fragile at the beginning," he said. "They need protection. Keep them quiet so they can grow in the dark soil of effort. When the tree becomes strong, everyone will see it. You won't need to announce it." Elara walked home slowly. Her mind was full, but she could not speak. That night, she made a decision. She would try again, but this time she would not tell anyone. She chose a small goal, not a big business, not a transformation everyone would talk about, just something simple. Every evening, she would practice baking for 1 hour. No announcements, no conversations, no applause. The first evening, she quietly measured flour. The second evening, she burned the dough and wanted to quit. Some nights, she felt hopeful. Some nights, she felt tired. But because no one knew, no one asked. No one expected results. There was no outside pressure, only her hands and silence. Days turned into weeks. Her bread improved. Her timing became better, and her mistakes stopped being excuses. One morning, she placed a small basket of fresh bread in front of her door. A neighbor noticed it. "Elara," he said in surprise, "did you make this?" Elara calmly nodded. "I was practicing," she said. "You never told anyone," the man said. With a small smile, Elara answered, "I wanted to finish first." This time, it wasn't a plan that spread, but her product. People tasted the bread, talked about it, and saw the quality. By the time the town realized what she had done, there was something real in front of them. Not a loud promise, a finished result. Elara began new projects and worked quietly each time. Weeks passed and her skills improved. Weeks turned into months, and she opened a small stall at the market. This time, when she was praised, the feeling she had was calmer and deeper. It came not from words, but from effort. Years later, Elara became known in town as someone reliable and talented. She didn't announce her plans. She only showed them when they were ready. People respected her more because it was no longer her words that spoke, but her actions. And she no longer needed early praise. She had finally experienced the peace that comes from patiently building and fully completing the work she once only talked about. Now think about your own life. How many times have you shared your goals and shortly after felt that energy fade? When you announce a plan too early, you scatter a great part of your power. Other people's applause can replace your discipline. The pleasure of the moment can stand in front of real work. That is why you must protect your dreams. Let them grow quietly. The world does not need to know what you are doing while you are still at the beginning. What people need to see is not your words, but the results of your actions. The next time you feel the urge to announce it, stop. Stay quiet and just work. When the time comes, what you have built will speak far more than you ever could. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories that change the way we see life. Thank you for listening.